Hello, and welcome back to the blog. This is Interpretive Rants, Part 9. This will be kind of a short one, I hope. This is again on a bigger idea on the scripture. When you read the Bible, a lot of people want to read through the Bible, they get very kind of excited, and they want to get disciplined about reading through the whole Bible, especially like in a year or some sort of plan. And the best plan that I found is some sort of chronological reading plan. The Bible, as it is organized now, is organized by literature, by some sort of literary category. So we've got history, we've got poetry, we've got the wisdom scriptures, we've got prophecy. In the New Testament, we have the Gospels and letters to churches and those kind of things. And they're also organized from bigger to smaller. So in the prophets, for instance, there's no chronological ordering to the prophets. You just go from the biggest, like Isaiah, down to Jeremiah, down to the smallest. And so there's really no context for these prophets. There's no context for what's going on historically that these prophets are really addressing. You're kind of reading them as you go, and they're kind of all out of order and out of context. And so chronological is really the best way to get an overview of God's redemptive act to redeem all of the world throughout history and how he works throughout history. It also places the prophecy and letters to churches and these kind of things in a better historical context. And where I get my plan for reading in chronological order is from backtothebible.org. Okay, it's got a really cheesy guy with like a comb over on the front page. At least it did, recently. And but really, if you kind of search through there, it's got reading plans, and if you go, it's got a chronological reading plan that's really, really good. The other thing I'm going to say about reading the scripture is I really encourage everyone to read in big chunks. Don't read just a few verses. Don't read just a few passages. Don't try to read chapters and chapters at a time. Most of the scripture was written to be read in large pieces. Okay, when Paul wrote a letter, for instance, to the Corinthians, even though it's a longer letter, he actually wrote it to be read in its entirety to the whole church. Okay, so not that it's completely horrible to read just pieces at a time, but it was actually written expressly to be read in big chunks. Okay, and so the chapters and verses that we have were actually added just within the past couple hundred years, and it made it easier to find things, which is great, right? But it also kind of not very efficiently kind of separated things out, so where we think this chapter is kind of a different piece that's meant to be kind of separated out, and yet most of these things, it was written to be kind of read straight through and not kind of separated by chapters and verses. Sometimes the verses, especially in Paul's letters, there'll be one whole sentence that goes 3 or 4 verses, if not 5 or 6 verses. And as we all know, a sentence is a complete thought. And so sometimes just taking one scripture out and teaching by that one scripture, you're actually you're not even sharing a complete thought that Paul is trying to share. And so I just really encourage people to read in big chunks, okay? So you'll understand the Bible better if you read it in some sort of chronological order. And like I said, the best one I found is on backtothebible.org. And you read it in big chunks and large pieces. And so, there you go. Enjoy it. God bless.